I want us to be at relatively like similar eye levels, but oh well.
Oh well.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Cry about it.
Maybe if I sit back a little bit more. Hello there, everyone. Welcome. That's not going to go well for the audio podcast. Will it?
No,
I'll
I
have
was
to
about to
redo
share with
that.
you.
All right. Okay. We'll go in. 3, 2, 1. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tapcaf Transmissions, where we're going to be doing something a little novel. We're going to be talking about a book. It's funny.
Kind of a short one too.
But I am one of your hosts, Corey, joined as always by the other host, Mr. Justin EckhartsLadder. How are you doing, Mr. Justin EckhartsLadder?
I'm doing quite well. This book is sort of a little one because I was like reading it, and we get to like the last chapter, and I flip over, and it's like, what do you mean epilogue? We done this already?
Well,
But I'm good.
The book does have the option of being slightly longer. Have you ever read The Apprentice? The short story The Apprentice by Elaine Cunningham, also
No. Are you supposed to?
You're not necessarily supposed to. I did for this, so if there's any questions anyone has about The Apprentice...
Why don't you sum it up real quick, if you
Well, do you remember the part in this here book that we're talking about today, Dark Journey, part of the new Jedi Order, following up Star by Star, where they go and have the scientist on Galenor work on helping with them with the gravatic tech.
help them do war crimes?
Yes.
Experimenting on capture. Yeah, I remember that.
So in the book, that section is not particularly in depth.
No, it all happens off page almost.
Yeah. So it basically feels just like a chapter was removed from the book to make this short story, because that's what it's about. But without getting too deep into this, we are going to be talking about Dark Journey. It has been several months since we did Star by Star, which I think was a decent place to have a bit of a hiatus from these books as we got into the Bad Batch, The Mandalorian, because Star by Star with Anakin's death, that's kind of the midpoint of the war. Coruscant is in the process of falling. We haven't seen too much of the fallout from that. But from here, we do get to Dark Journey, where Jaina Solo is dealing with the aftermath of Anakin Solo's death.
She thinks her brother's dead too.
Yeah, she thinks Jason is dead as well. No one believes.
As an audience, do we know whether he is or not?
We don't. We know he's kind of captured, but you don't really know whether he's been sacrificed or, because especially with in this book, there's the moment where he's like crying out in pain and everyone thinks he's dead.
Just like that.
But yeah, it's when you reach out and you can't feel your kin in the Force. It's that Force kin thing that goes on that you're so into.
You reach out and you just hear, oof. Oof.
And then Tommy Tallarico chimes in and says that was his sound effect. But before we get into the book too deep here, is there any Star Wars news you would like to talk about? It being May the 4th, Star Wars Day, internationally recognized.
Fake Star Wars Day?
Are you more of a Revenge of the 6th kind of guy?
No, but the original Star Wars Day was like, I think it was it's May 25th, right? Do you know that story?
No.
Well, the original, I can't remember the story, but the original like Star Wars premiered on May 25th, 97.
That doesn't sound like a punny name. I don't care.
Yeah. So that was originally Star Wars Day. And then I don't know when the change was made, but yeah.
Well, there you go. So that's entirely besides the point of what I asked.
Well, we got Visions. I haven't watched it yet. Have you watched it?
I haven't. I watched one or two of them in the review period, but I've just been incredibly busy, and I figured individual reviews of the episodes is probably not something I'm going to be doing. So when we decided we were going to be going ahead with this book rather than Visions, I focused on other stuff today. I am definitely intending on watching it. I'll probably put out like an overall volume review, but I don't think I'm going to be doing like anything too deep with any of the individual episodes. Have you watched Young Jedi Adventures, though?
You did watch it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Have you?
No, I haven't. It's nice to watch something that I don't feel the need to break down. I'm not feeling like, okay, I gotta watch this new thing immediately and immediately break it down. So I'm gonna Same with when the huge, the other really big production, Grogu and the Dust Bunnies came out.
Yeah, that came out while I was in Halifax, I think, last year, visiting
Yeah, you and
you.
Charlie watched it, I think you said,
Yeah.
right?
So me and
Yeah.
Charlie, we got settled down to watch it, and like, what the fuck is
Mhm.
this?
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was just like, with all the Jedi Survivor stuff over the last week, I figured I wouldn't go too crazy trying to get stuff ready for immediate release. I'd probably do some over the next week. I wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't
Yep.
stressing over it. I
Yeah.
am excited to watch it. I don't want to give the
Me too.
impression that I'm just being
Me too. No,
dismissive
no,
of
me
it. It's
too.
just
Me too. That looks good. I've heard it's as good as the first one. So
it is shorter. That's the one thing that's did make it a bit less daunting for me to get into it, because with a lot of these that they release all at once. I kind of prefer a weekly release schedule,
me too.
but the longest of these is like 18 minutes compared to Volume 1, where there were a couple that were like 25, 22, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a nice midpoint, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, although I wouldn't mind, it'd be nice if each one had like one longer thing. But
Yeah.
I guess wasn't the Ninth Jedi pretty like a significantly longer, or no?
Was that the 25-minute one? Like there was one that was like a standard.
Yeah, I think it was the one where they're like on the space station. Wasn't that Ninth Jedi?
I don't remember the names of any of them.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. This is a nonsense conversation. What else is new with you, Corey? You got
Are
any?
you new to the podcast?
Yeah. Do you got any new? I mean, it's even more nonsense than usual.
Right.
Do you got any news? You got any Star Wars stuff you want to talk about?
Did you see the big tweets of the day? The Star Wars game tweets of the day.
I did. I've got a short. I got to record. I got to finish editing on that from Mr. Andy Robinson.
Yeah. So
yeah. It's funny because it's got like 12 likes right now, so it's not a big tweet.
The owner and editor of Video Game Chronicle, I think, is the website name, which is a reasonably sized video game news outlet. So it's a at least to some extent a legit source as far as any rumors can ever be. But he has commented saying that there is an unannounced Star Wars strategy game that is being produced by a big studio right now. So the assumption there is that this would be an RTS. We already know that BitReactor is making a turn-based strategy game that's more in line with XCOM, or at least the interview with Greg Forch has implied as much.
Seems like it's XCOM, yeah.
Yeah, so XCOM's probably the closest analog there. This is a different kind of game by a different company. So RTS or 4X would be the safe bets there. So Empire at War fans should be getting excited for an eventual announcement for that. My opinion.
It's been hurt so much, Corey. Come on.
What?
Well, it might not be anything like Empire at War.
Well, so it'll be a strategy game.
It could be Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes 2.
Sure. Is that what that could be? I don't think so. Would they do 2?
Yeah,
haven't they finished 1? Would you consider them a big developer though?
Well, that's why, like, in my video I mentioned Petroglyph specifically is not a big developer.
No. Same.
I mean, Galaxy of Heroes is pulling in a lot of money, so like, I'm trying to remember what's the dev for that. It's
CG something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, CG Capital Games.
Yes.
Which or EA. They are now, I think, just EA Mobile as well. So yeah,
I could see it being a mobile game, but I don't think it's going to be like a gacha game.
I mean, Galaxy of Heroes is a gacha game.
I mean, it's not really a strategy game as implied by the tweet. The one bit of information that we may have, and I don't know that there's many mobile developers that do that. Zynga is already making a Star Wars game. Allegedly, someday it might come out. But yeah, my opinion is that like big developer cannot mean Petroglyph, and Petroglyph is they're just finishing up with the Great War, and they're probably still working primarily on Great War support. So there's 0% chance in my mind that Petroglyph has been working on a Star Wars game that is worth commenting on from anyone or that anyone would know about. So as much as Empire at War is a big part of my life, if I am Lucasfilm Games, I am probably not going to Petroglyph for a new big
Oh
Star
no!
Wars
I mean, if they
strategy
are going to
title.
do another Empire at War, they're going to do a Battlefront 2 style, where they just call it Empire at War, and it's got the same name, but it's like completely new, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I could believe a mobile strategy game. I could believe an RTS. I could believe a 4X game like Paradox style or Creative Assembly style. I don't believe Petroglyph has any chance of being involved in whatever this is right now, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's
Yep.
the news as I am aware of it.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really. We gotta have a Jedi Survivor talk soon.
Yes.
Um,
I wanted to
I'd
wait
say
until it's a bit soon for us to get into like a full spoiler talk. People are
it's a
still
long
playing
game.
through it. Yeah. So
What do you think of the backlash that's been getting? Fair? Too much? Not enough?
I've been seeing some people talking about how they feel like betrayed by EA and Respawn, and I think that's a bit far. But
Okay.
uh, I mean, I
No,
feel like it'll be.
I am mad
fixed,
at
but-
EA and Respawn. Not as a consumer. Well, yeah, as a consumer, but also I don't like the position they put us in with the footage for their preview.
Right.
Like I mentioned, it felt a bit choppy, but we were also running on the top of the line PCs, and without footage to show that, it's like I'm more focused. You got 4 hours, you know,
Yeah.
and you're playing on like a PC specifically designed to run the game.
Yeah.
But
our reviews weren't based on that. That was just the preview stuff.
No, you're right. And I will say I felt good because my review started off with like 3-4 minutes of just straight up technical issues. But like I'm just so disappointed the game launched and like there's no way they didn't know.
Yeah, I think with I mean, it depends on what their development setup is. The thing is the fact that the consoles don't run well either is what I think it should be the big giveaway there.
PS5 is okay at least.
Yeah, like it's very difficult developing PC stuff and console stuff simultaneously when dealing with so many possible combinations of hardware and software where something can go wrong, and like you can easily overlook something that's going to cause performance issues for even most of the player base. But the fact that consoles are standardized and it was as bad as it was there is
it clearly
not
needed like
good.
another year. Like people are saying it needed another month. Like I don't know much about game development. It feels like it needed another like 6 months, maybe.
Well, part of it is that you're getting more information on how it's running and what the possible issues could be in 3 days, or even just the first day of it being released, than you would get in a year of developing it in-house. Like you're still going to end up with some issues at the end of that year while incurring a lot more costs. So if you're getting in the space of like 2 or 3 weeks a few patches out compared to waiting a year and then still having to do patches, like I've seen so much stuff. Something that really pisses me off, I'm not discounting what you're saying, but something that pisses me off is the idea that like no games were like this, like gaming never used to be like this, which is factually inaccurate. It's just people focus on the ones that weren't, or
totally. Yeah, I seen that take too. I saw that from what's his name? The buy sell wait guy. He's what's his name? He's like one of the big.
Is that when you only have sex with 2 people?
No, no. He's like a big games reviewer, and the only review he gives is buy, rent, or not buy, sell, buy, rent, or wait.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, he was. Games have always been like this. I do think like nowadays there is maybe more of it because they know they can slap a band-aid on it later. Yeah. But like some of these issues were like, again, I know very little about the technical side of it, but like I watched the tech breakdown of like the frames and stuff, and like there are certain points where it's like anyone would kind of see this, you know, whether it's like textures compiling or whatever.
Well, sorry, but one big one with that during review, especially before the day 0 patch, which mostly fixed it, I don't know if you came across it, was when you're going to hyperspace, the game would turn into a fucking screenshot. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it would go down to like legitimately 2 frames a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big issue. Also, all of my cutscene audio broke completely. Like I would have people repeating their lines. Thankfully, I had the subtitles on, but that all seemed to get fixed.
I didn't have a
But
single issue like that in the cutscenes when I was playing. Like I had some textures displaying improperly where like Cal's face would break and you'd see kind of the spec map get rendered wrong, but I didn't have any issues with like the audio. So that was something that I missed.
yeah, for me, it would like the first one I had was when they're leaving Coruscant in the Z95, and Cal says his line. So there's like Cal says his line in the game. There's complete silence, and then literally like 10 seconds later, he says it, but like, and then he repeats it again, and then it's just like completely broken. So
Yeah,
it
but
happened to me during the very last cutscene of the game. And it happened to me during the second to last boss fight as well. So
mhm.
kind of hurt the experience a little bit, but I figured those ones would be a lot easier to fix than just like I haven't seen anyone getting like above consistent 60 frames per second,
Yeah.
even on PC, which is pretty remarkable considering it is a very demanding game. And I'm glad they decided to go next gen only, but yeah,
Yeah, like that's kind of what's indicating to me that it's got to be a weird bottleneck somewhere that isn't entirely gated by your GPU
yeah,
strength. Because
yeah,
like it's not even just that no one can get above that many frames. It seems like it doesn't even scale that much based on your GPU, or even necessarily that much based on your graphic settings. So
yeah. I had people. So I've got what is it, a 3800 Ti and a 5950X CPU, and people are like, well, that's not really a gaming CPU, it's better for editing. I'm like, okay, sure, but it's also like it was like $1,000 CPU and it's like an $1,800 graphics card. Like if I can't run it, like that's an issue. Not to
yeah,
be like cocky or whatever, but
especially with
yeah,
how the game was like so heavily advertised, like developed with AMD, like.
yeah,
But yeah, it's such a persistent problem with AAA releases that like it's it's hard to put the blame too much on any individual developer while simultaneously being such a weird systemic issue that like it clearly it's not a good thing to keep happening. But like we were talking about Elden Ring, where game of
yeah.
the year, everyone fucking loves it. But if you look back at that first week of release, like we streamed Elden Ring day one,
Tried to,
and
yeah,
it was basically unplayable for us with
yeah,
pretty good computers, like far worse than Jedi Survivor
yeah.
even
Elden
was,
Ring
because
was worse.
like at least there were some frames for Jedi Survivor. Elden Ring
But
would
I
just
remember
go
with Elden
freezing.
Ring, I was able to fix it. Because like I remember I ended up playing a lot the first night. I had to really drop the settings down, but I was able to fix it. That's kind of the weird thing about this. I can run ray tracing on ultra, and I get really similar to the similar amount of frames to
Yeah,
when I'm on low with everything off. Um, but
yeah,
it's they're really lucky. They put out an amazing game. Like I've got some issues with the game, but I mean, I've got 40 hours in it right now,
yeah.
probably, and it's phenomenal. But they're lucky. Like they're lucky they've got so much goodwill, which is kind of funny because they did have a bad PC launch on the first game. Um, and they're lucky the game itself is really good.
So we'll do a full episode on like the story and everything. Probably talk more about the performance stuff. Next week we are not gonna have an episode, most likely.
Mhm.
I see very little chance of that happening, but maybe the week after that it'll be enough time. You think?
Yep.
All right.
Oh, I beat
So
Ogda Bogda, by the way.
yeah, I was watching you struggle with that live. I came back like right as you finished it after ditching you and leaving you to your pain for a while.
Mhm.
But Dark Journey by Elaine Cunningham, book number 10, I think. There's 9 new
I
Jedi
think we
Order books
just
after this.
yeah this is like right the midway point, right?
Yeah. But I think it's 19 books in total. There's 9 left after this. So
You want to set the
I'm
stage?
so yeah, the last book, Star by Star, the young Jedi Knights all went to Mercure. They destroyed the Voxins. I guess the Voxin is the name of the wrong one, but it's a bioengineered creature that was made to hunt Jedi by the Yuzon Vong. So the strike team went and killed the Voxen Queen. The Voxen are gone, but it came at the cost of a bunch of side characters introduced in the book. But more importantly, Anakin Solo, one of the second major character death, I'd say, of the series. Like, there's been some other deaths, Elagosa Claws up there, but for like long-standing characters that you probably think are safe, the Solo family
Yep.
has now lost Chewbacca and Anakin, and this book is dealing with the aftermath of the escape. So the surviving members of the Mercure strike team have stolen a ship from the Yuzon Vong. Jane is kind of in command of them while dealing with Anakin's death and Jason's capture. They decide to take refuge in the Hapes Consortium. So the story of this book is basically how Tachum, which is the former queen of Hapes, is trying to set up Jaina to marry her son, Princess Older, who had formerly been a suitor of Princess Leia. Big family drama there. Jaina's going through some dark side issues.
She's arguably having a dark journey.
Oh shit, that's why the book. Oh, those guys.
I was like, why is this called dark? They've been on one. Oh.
You see, I was thinking they didn't go very far.
Yeah.
But Jaina's also
Where's
trying
Hapes in Star Wars canon?
It's in the same place.
But it hasn't. I mean, it hasn't appeared in anything yet.
It's been mentioned, I think, once or twice.
I don't think so. I just looked it up. It's only been in. It's only been mentioned a couple of times in reference books, just on a map.
Maybe we'll get there.
I hope so.
Yeah, so we're dealing with how Jaina is dealing with the loss of Anakin.
Really not well.
No, not well.
She's also trying to be pimped off to like 9 different people.
This is a big problem with the new Jedi Order. Like, Jaina literally, she's not even 18 at the start of the series. She's 17, I think, at the start of the series. But basically, anytime that she is appearing in these books, anytime that the books focus on her, because they're usually focusing on Jason and Anakin up till now, there's at least some subplot of a creepy old man trying to sleep with her in some way.
Yeah, I will say, I think, so there's, with Kip in particular, there's one instance where he says something like about how he would be like committing a great crime against the Solo family. Do you remember that line?
Yeah.
I kind of read that one in particular more about if he took Jaina under his wing and like let her do all the evil shit she kind of wanted to do.
But there was the prior stuff with him, with the Cern Pidal thing, where he is like very clearly hitting on her. And I think she's not 18 at that point either. Not that like the weird fucking internet thing where they have the countdown for some female celebrities isn't creepy, because they were kind of doing that with Jaina as well. And that's what was happening before. But at least now she's 18 and like, it's a low limbo, or it's a high limbo bar, but they still made it under it.
Yeah. So we've got Princess Older is probably the weirdest one.
At least it's not a soldier that's trying to do that.
But
he agrees to it.
Considers it.
But he agrees to it. Ultimately agrees to it.
It's pragmatic.
Yeah, it's not because
it's a pedophile to save. Well, not a pedophile. Would you be a creep to save your people? Basically. I did it also. I always love. I really like these characters. The Courtship of Princess Leia characters. I just love when they continually pop up over and over again. And this book had lots of that. It had lots of tie-ins as well to the Young Jedi Knight series. Lots of talking about like the Shadow Academy and stuff. Obviously, Tenel Ka's a major character in this, and this kind of sets her on a path that separates her from the rest of her Jedi. Also, lots of like reflecting about how things are different. Like at one point, they're like climbing a mountain, and Tenel Ka's like, "We can't keep our body as fit as we could when we were students."
Yeah,
I was like, "Yeah, I can relate to that."
Yeah, and there's too much talking about their bodies, so it's fun. There is more of the Young Jedi Knights references in The Apprentice, which again just reads like it's a cut chapter from this. But they do mention MTD, who doesn't get mentioned in all the...
he gets mentioned once.
Does he get mentioned in the actual book? Okay.
Yeah, because they're talking about not being able to understand Lobaka.
Right. Yeah. Jaina asks Loey if he misses MTD
Oh.
uh in the short story,
And
which Loey says no.
what the fuck?
Everyone knows he's lying. He has to keep
Oh,
up
really?
appearances.
Okay. Yeah, I
Jaina
like
hugs
that.
him right after.
Okay, I like.
Loey, poor Loey, just gets abused heavily in this book. He's so loyal. He gets his
Yeah.
friends killed for Jaina because Jaina
Yeah.
tells him to bring in some Wookiees to help with the technical side of trying to trick the Yuzon Vong. Because basically, what Jaina's trying to do in this book, she's trying to fix up the frigate they stole, the Kistar, which she renamed to the Trickstar, uh, and they're trying to play with the gravity tech, which they know the Yuzon Vong use from Yamis, thanks to Danny Quee's work in all the prior books. So Jane is trying to take some of the principles from that and basically make a thing that they can fire at other Yuzon Vong ships to modify their gravitic signatures, which is how the Yuzon Vong are able to. It's basically like Yuzon Vong transponder codes. So Jaina is firing little Yuzon Vong transponder codes onto enemy ships to make them think it's
She's
the stolen
basically a
frigate.
troll.
Yeah.
She's basically a troll at this point. She's fully embracing the is it Yunharla, I think, is the
Yes.
trickster god, and like I just imagine she keeps talking about like the symbol it has, and I just imagine it's like the troll face, like from the old Rage comic memes. Um, and yeah, this is in because she's trying to figure out a way to fight back, and you're right, or Corey explained it well, how if you can kind of, she's found a way to get them where she wants them to be, and she's like also personally or purposefully antagonizing them as much as possible. Um, so we're gonna see more of that as it goes on. But yeah, she's also falling to the, she uses force lightning in this one. She like forcefully performs medical experiments on people. She sacrifices a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So she's going down a really dark path, and she's got Kip Duran by her side, who's probably not right now the best person to shepherd her through that.
No. She to research and test out the gravitic signature stuff, she's sending up pilots under her command to literally just do suicide missions. They keep exploding. She keeps setting them up. I think they're Haven pilots, so like it's
Yeah.
how'd she get this much authority over them is kind of weird. You'd think Tenel Ka would be like, this is not very epic. But the
Yeah.
Haven seem pretty eager to give up command of their unit or their forces to anyone else. Like Tenel
Mm.
Ka at the end of the book just gives its entire freshly built Haven fleet, replacing all their losses from them being destroyed by Centerpoint
Five
Station.
ships apparently.
There were more than that.
Well, she says five large ships and then many smaller ones. So I don't know if they like if
Well,
there's
that's just
Hapen
the ones that made
dreadnoughts or
it there on
something.
time. But
No, that's the one she's looking on her little ring thing.
yeah, but there's got to be more that are out there because they
Yeah.
lost a lot at Fondor. It was not just,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it
and
was
they
like
were
hundreds
saying
of
they
ships.
replaced most of them already. So they
Yeah.
they probably just brought in a task force and like this is on Hapes. Like,
The Hapens are quite simply built different.
did they just lose their entire like command structure at Fondor though?
I think they kind of just rule based on like who's the hottest woman.
Jankenfell isn't the hottest woman though.
He's not ruling though. He's just temporarily got a little control. Just a little control.
Yeah, but like he's a fighter squadron commander, and he is the person who Tenel Ka is like, you know what? It's you. There's the explanation for this is probably that literally everyone else is trying to kill her family in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So who can you trust? Who knows?
Yeah.
But we do get actually another big Legends character death in this book. They do Tenennial Joe dirty. She's wasting away in her room
Oh
after
yeah,
the force echoes
that
of
was weird.
the Fondor fleet being destroyed have left her not so hot.
She has a miscarriage because of the Force, which is
And
kind of not a cool thing for the Force to do.
well, think about what would have happened on Alderaan. Like if there's anyone with like slight force training, but I guess not enough to shield their mind, did that turn people into Tenennials here?
Hmm. Could have. Yeah. Although maybe it was because Jason's force sensitive. He like does like maybe I just imagine him doing like a Palpatinian shriek, like Palpatine's jump. He goes "Argh!" and he jumps out like towards Mace Windu. Like I imagine it's just that, so it's like extra potent.
And that's how he kills Tachum.
Yeah, yeah. Sound moves very slowly, and only through a medium. So, but yeah, that was weird. I was trying to remember. I was like, isn't there something about her holding on to the pregnancy? And I was like, oh no, that's Tenel Ka.
Yeah.
Who like keeps the baby cooking for extra time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After, I mean, we lose Tenennial Joe here. She gets poisoned. Isolde and Tachum are still around for a little while. But,
well, they're around for till Legacy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Legacy of the Force, not Legacy.
Yeah, Legacy of the Force, I mean, yeah.
But that's not super long from now. I guess it's 15 years. It's a fair amount.
Yeah.
Especially for Tachum, who's like, she do be old.
Yeah, I feel like she's probably in her like 60s.
Han is in his 60s.
Yeah. Is he 60? Isn't he like almost 60? Because isn't he 30 in A New Hope and it's 27
this
now?
Is 25 years later. 27 years later.
Yeah, so he's almost 60.
Like Luke and Leia are what, 47 then?
Yeah. 49, yeah.
So she's probably 70, 80. Like I think Isolde was older than Leia in
or 45. 45.
Yeah, because 18, 19. Yeah. Like all the characters are older than you'd think. Like Mara has been mid to late 40s.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. But I mean, it's also just like we have lots of old. I mean, she's also like a queen, basically, on or at least a royal on a very rich, very very well off and scientifically minded place. So I'm not surprised she lives quite a while longer until she gets the brain zapped to her.
Well, yeah, we get the
someone in the chat saying Isolde is actually younger than Luke and Leia. Oh. Okay, could be because I remember he is described as young compared to Han anyway, but whatever.
Well, Tenel Ka, I do kind of wish Tenel Ka was used a bit more in the book. Like, she has a few good scenes, but like it being on Hapes and especially dealing with like the loss of Jason, we get the loss of Jason is pretty early in the book, where Tenel Ka kind of like opens herself to the Force while fighting some Hapen pirates or Peace Brigade / Hapen pirates.
Yeah.
But so she feels Jason's presence, then it goes away, which convinces everyone, including Tenel Ka and Jaina, and Luke, that Jason has died. But Leia's like, no.
Yeah.
So, and then Tenel Ka, we get, I think, our first NJO. One of our first NJO acknowledgements of their like semi-relationship from earlier. There's a bit of it in Star by Star, but it feels a little bit disjointed. Because like
she says very clearly in this one, she'd loved him forever, basically.
Yeah, and was disappointed that Jason didn't seem to reciprocate. But didn't they kiss or something in Star by Star as well? I feel like that happened. I might be making that up. It's a very long book, and it's like 6 months ago.
Yeah. I don't remember them kissing. I feel like they maybe have like they kiss in Young Jedi Knights, maybe.
In the Bespin one, there's like something more overt than the nothing from prior books, or just the one-sided Jason crush that we see. But yeah, so she gets really upset about Jason being supposedly dead for some reason. But I think the way Kip was handled with this is actually pretty interesting, because early on, he feels it, and he was like, well, I didn't even like the fucking kid. Why am I feeling this? And he talks about kind of how he sees Jason as this spoiled, useless guy, and like he's only ever been spoiled, and it's uh, terrible person, ready to let the galaxy burn. But then he talks about Jaina later, and he calls her a Jedi princess, but then like corrects it and says it's not that she's spoiled or ruined by that or anything. When like they had the same upbringing, and I think this was an intentional way to show how Kip is being kind of unreasonable and projecting his own
Yeah.
dislike of Jason's inaction as he sees it during the Yuzon Vong War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's well said. Kip is definitely interesting in this one, and it's everyone is walking a very gray line here. Well, not everyone, but Kip and Jaina especially. We're like, yeah, they want the right thing, but Jaina especially is going really far down the path, and she's also just like it's reflecting on the fact that she's just always awful to everyone she talks to.
Mm-hmm.
Because like one thing we're getting in this book is Jag Fell. I think he'd only been in one prior one, maybe. I could be wrong with that. But Jag Fell is pretty nice, and like she realizes in this one that there's like lots of little. They're always getting embarrassed around each other, and you know. But she realizes kind of pretty near the end that she probably really likes him. But he's always really nice to her, and she's just awful to him.
Yeah, she's like she misinterprets almost everything he says, because he's thinking that she's going to uh, marry a soldier
Yes.
and
Yeah, that
become
was
like just looking for
probably the
Hape and
most
power.
annoying moment of the book. Sorry.
Yeah, but
He says basically like, just remember your station. Like you don't need to rise in the ranks at all. And she thinks that he's talking about marrying like or getting with him when
yeah,
like I don't know. I don't really think that being the son of a baron in the chess is because like what is a baron? A baron's supposed to be someone who gets a lot of starfighter kills. Like
yeah,
yeah, obviously Soontir, who we do see in this one, has been elevated. But yeah.
yeah. I like Jaina's arc. I feel like Kip is a little weirder, and that's kind of a fault of everyone. It's not a problem necessarily with just this book, but I feel like this book goes with all angles on it, where with the way that authors handle Kip, they either hold him responsible for what he did in Jedi Academy,
Yeah.
or they say that's entirely Exarchin. And well, he's always got a contentious relationship with Luke, no matter what's happening. Like I think his uh want for proactivity, his like flirting with the dark side at least is a good storyline. I think what happens here is we kind of get him pulling away from that by the end because Jaina pulls away from it, and because
Mhm.
Jaina realizes that she's being manipulated by Ta Chum. She has a vision or two
Yep.
where she kind of sees the end results of the action she's taking, sees that like the ends don't always justify the means, and maybe Luke has a bit more of a point with his holding back. And that's enough to kind of pull Kip back a bit. And it feels less convincing for him than her,
Mhm.
where her changing her mind has more of an effect on Kip than I think is warranted, but almost because this book pushes him more consciously towards like he knows he's using the dark side or whatever than we've gotten before.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And there is still like that one scene where she uses force lightning, and it kind of like doesn't even really talk about it. She kind of just like
Mm-hmm.
does it, and then I think she talks about doing it again when they're in space. Um, but yeah, a lot of this was all very sudden, and I'm kind of curious of how because I don't remember how this is kind of handled in subsequent books. Like if Jaina is not really the focus anymore, and they kind of just ignore that, and she's just good again, I think that'll be a little bit frustrating.
I think that's what happens because Jaina is like, what's next? We got Traitor in Destiny's Way, and then we have the enemy line stuff, which she's not really in.
Do we
Actually,
have
she
Rebels? Isn't
is.
Rebel Stand next?
Isn't next? Maybe, but that's enemy lines one and
One, yeah,
two. Yeah,
yeah.
but I know. I think we go to. Maybe you're right, but she must be in there because that's when Jansen hits on her.
Hmm.
So she's in there, but I think so. At the end of the book, it's how she's like she feels like she needs to hide her dark side slide from everyone,
Yeah.
and that's what it's really like. You end the book with her done with her dark journey, essentially, rather than it being something that she is going to be dealing with until Dark Nest.
Yeah.
But because the focus goes so much more heavily as far as like the force affinities, that goes to Jason.
Yeah.
And she goes back to being more the we're gonna kill some Yuzon Vong,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not dark now.
Yeah.
Have we seen Kip use Force Lightning before?
I don't think so. I think Jaina is the only really real one who has so far.
Because she
Maybe
uses it on
Jason? I
him,
can't remember. Yeah.
and he's like, if I can summon it, I can dissipate it.
Yeah.
Like, can you summon it?
Yeah. Do we? Um the other kind of big thing, we get a little bit of Yuuzhan Vong stuff where I believe introduced to what's his name's nephew, Savon Law's nephew. Or is it his son?
I think
Can't
it's his
remember.
son.
His son, yeah. And we're also learning that Savon Law is having a little bit of issues, which I think started in one of the earlier books where one of his well, he just got his actually I know he just got his arm chopped off for the Battle of Coruscant as a sacrifice, and the new Bayot's not taking, which
Yeah.
is like it's a really bad sign. Basically means the gods aren't fucking with you right now. And what was I going to say? And yeah, so that's part of the reason why they're so heavily chasing Jaina, because there's a belief in Yuuzhan Vong society that twins they're very rare among the Vong. So they want to capture Jaina because they believe that she's got some great powers and more so signifies like a new coming of age. Plus, there's the fact that she's kind of embodying this trickster god. So she's like, they really want her right now.
Yeah, like I think this is when the Vong learned that Luke and Leia are twins as well.
Yeah.
Or at least Harar does.
Yep.
So they're kind of losing their shit over all this, and then they have everything that Jane is doing. They find out what's going on by the end, and Kali Law decides to just kill himself over the embarrassment of not capturing Jaina. But I kind of like the Harar and Kaylee Law dynamic. They were a fun Yuzon Vong duo.
Yeah. It's always kind of interesting where like Harar, he actually does, because like the Vong believe in the gods to varying degrees. Where like sometimes, for some of them, if they have a limb not taking, it's like clearly just a medical thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, what's going on? Am I being poisoned? Where others are like, okay, this is the gods have smited me. And
Yeah.
Harar is pretty pragmatic, but he's definitely on the gods have smited me side. Or not smited me, have smited Savon Law. So we have to appease them.
Yeah.
That was the take I got anyway.
He's at least aware of the appearances that he's supposed to keep. Because, like, he's very pragmatic about the stuff at the end with Kaylee as well, where, like, rather than just say he's been disgraced or turn it into an issue that way, they both concoct the plan to get him killed and, like, make it look like he was killed in battle. So he's clearly not 100% bought into, like, you always have to go with the system.
Yeah. Yeah, they did have an interesting dynamic where Kaylee Law is kind of cheeky, like he's sort of acting above his station sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But Harar is kind of for it. Like he finds it funny because he's so straight. He's such a straight shooter. Like he'd call it bullshit, even though it's sometimes maybe not appropriate.
Yeah, and I feel like he does remain a pretty major character for the next little while at least. So even if he doesn't have his little angry buddy Kaylee around, I do like me some Harar. I know early on the general feeling was that the Yuzon Vong characters are just hard to keep track of, but I think him and Namenor are two that stand out pretty well, I think, in the series.
And Savon Law, I'd say. Yeah, I agree. For me, like Name nor Savon Law, those two are like the main ones. And then what's his name too? Shimra, obviously. Although we haven't really seen too much of him yet. A couple times, I guess.
He is he in the galaxy yet? Like, does he make it
Mhm.
in for Star by Star?
Mm,
Because he
I
comes
know
for the
we've.
shaping of Coruscant.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, we've seen him, but I can't remember exactly. Yeah,
Like, I think so far it's just been in like Villip appearances rather than him
yeah.
actually
It might
being
be.
there yet. But
Yeah, it might
it's just
be.
been so long since Star by Star. Uh,
Yeah.
there is something with the Jaina storyline that kind of annoyed me with like her character development when they're
Okay.
talking about. Uh, I think it's close to when Jaina's reunited with her parents,
Mm-hmm.
and they were talking about like unfair comments and stuff that Han had made and Leia and Jaina had made. And
Yep.
I feel like it kind of sweeps away some of the fair points that Jaina had about like Han and Leia not being particularly present
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I feel like we get more of that in later series than we do here, but it sweeps away a lot of that, and also just kind of the depth of how they portray like Han's sadness after Chewie dies
Yeah.
as well. And like it is Anakin's death, I feel like could have used more attention just
Yeah.
generally, um, especially where they think both the kids are. Well, Leia doesn't think, but yeah,
Yeah, like I understand they're trying to show growth in how like Han has moved past the Chewie style of mourning, but like they don't act like two parents that just lost
no,
one, potentially two of their kids in this book.
no,
It's
agreed.
like, well, what can you say?
I guess my face will blanch anytime someone comes and gives me news, but other than that,
hmm
probably okay.
Like they just feel like they're acting entirely normally. There's not
Yeah,
really much of a reaction. Leia cries once, and then Luke feels a bit weird about saying anything about Ben for a scene. So
yeah, yeah. But I mean, otherwise, not a whole lot happens in this novel. We get kind of Tenel Ka does take control of. She's kind of the new, not really official, but she will be the new Queen Mother.
mhm.
Anything else you really want to mention about how it moves forward? The story is a pretty self-contained one compared to some of the other ones we've read so far.
Yeah, I think some decently strong character work. I do think we get a good amount of exploration of the Hapen society here. We hear
Yeah.
more about the extended family of the Hapens. We get the Nikorish appearance, which are
Mm,
the sect of Jedi haters that are
yeah.
uh, technically. I think like Tachum is commanding them, but then she just sells them out right at the
Yeah.
end. Like, oh, we're gonna
Yeah.
kill them all. Don't worry. After they kill Tenennial Joe. Uh, because basically that
Yeah.
was named after. I think that's the name of
Her
her
mother, I
mother.
think. Yeah.
Is Nikorish, and she was a big Jedi hater. She's the one who was rumored to be sleeping with Palpatine, I think, rather than Talchum, because that was a thing that
Oh, I don't remember that.
was. Yeah, so I think it's just like a reference book thing. It might be from the Essential Atlas,
Hmm.
where it kind of talks about the Hapes cluster and like in universe like theories and conspiracies for why
Right.
Palpatine didn't invade them. And one
Right.
of the fake in universe ones was that the reason that the Empire didn't invade the Hapens was because Palpatine was uh, banging the Queen Mom.
Hmm. Good for him. Um, yeah, I remember she quite openly hates Jedi in like there's a scene in I think Courtship where she kind of says that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Uh,
and so Tenel Ka being like full on Jedi, Dathomiri witch, and Hapen is
yeah.
not
It's
thrilling
like the
for her.
war. Yeah, you don't hope for that for your kid if you're her.
Well, she doesn't get a say anymore.
Nope.
It forces Tenel Ka to make that decision. It kind of feels like sidelining of Tenel Ka for a long time, which is
Yeah,
unfortunate.
she
But
does
she
get
does get more
sidelined.
in
She really
later.
does.
Yeah,
Like she ends up staying mostly on the planet pretty much the entire time, from what I remember,
yeah,
until Jason comes by, swings by, knocks her up, and just leaves.
yeah. There's like two more scenes with her and Jason together, basically. But
Yeah.
there's a bit more in Darkness, but like throughout the NJO, like it's not just because I'm a Jason Tenel shipper, but like
Hmm.
there's not really much acknowledgement of her or their relationship until Star by Star, where Jason is like immediately on to Danny Quee, and like she doesn't get mentioned much. Loe's around a fair bit. Zek's around a lot more as well.
Yep.
But
Yep.
Tenel Ka kind of feels like not even just that she's not there as much, but there's just such a distance between her and Jaina, especially, even
Hmm.
when they are together, and even before this, where it just doesn't feel like they're particularly close. And
Hmm.
it's not even that it's been that long since the end of the Young Jedi Knight stuff. It's been maybe 1 or 2 years, but
Yeah.
there's just less impact to Tenel Ka's multiple times where she's making the sacrifice of like going to stay with the Hapens more and taking this leadership position where it just already feels like that sacrifice has been made and she's been sidelined so much,
Hmm.
which is it's kind of sad. I feel like she should have been a bit more present.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
But that's kind of the rest of my thoughts on the book. Anything else you want to say maybe about Jag? We kind of covered him, but
Yeah, I honestly need a little more of Jag before I really have thoughts on him. I like him as a character. He's fun. He's kind of like a lot of the men characters, like the young men, get written into like perfect romance character. Like his only flaw was that sometimes he was a bit too serious. Like okay,
mhm.
you know. Um, otherwise, no, I thought it was good.
Well, there is the long-term story with Jag where we have to track Star Wars's increasing acceptance of the fact that maybe we should end this story on the note of maybe authoritarianism isn't that bad as long as it's someone we like.
Yeah, yeah, that was a. We'll get to that. We've got a couple series before we get there.
I don't think we've got any questions specifically on Dark Journey. There is one from Joel that's a bit more about a wider NJO setup.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, there's nothing else specifically on Dark Journey. Maybe we'll just take this one question from Joel for this week, and we do want to have in the very near future a very more comment question focused
Yeah.
episode. Uh, But Joel's question was, what do you make of the argument among fans that Del Rey and Lucasfilm publishing backtracked on the new Jedi Order series after it was done, reverting back to the Jedi versus Sith battles and almost leaving the air to dry? Something I see a lot in places like the old Jedi Council forums that tend to have mostly negative opinion among its fans on the post-NJO material in the post-Endor era. Love to hear your thoughts on the perception of that era.
I mean, they obviously do in a way where like a lot of it gets swept under the rug for completely. Like, there's a lot to tell about the galaxy having to be rebuilt, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they swept it away because of like they didn't like the story. Although maybe that was it. I honestly feel like it was mostly about they wanted to make a series without having people without necessitating for people to read a 19 book
Yeah.
prologue series, basically. I think that's just kind of the nature of like the storytelling at the time there, where they were less tied into, you know, right now they're making like a lot of the stories. You got the High Republic era, which is definitely its own thing. And that does require a lot to really get into it. But a lot of the stories now are also just one off tie ins to whatever's popular. So,
Yeah, I think part of it, probably not the best time to go into a long discussion about this, but I think part of it is that when stories in Star Wars are so focused on a core set of characters that have influence over every part of the galaxy, it's much harder to have those kinds of stories that are able to connect different parts of the universe without always requiring knowing
yeah.
everything else that's going on. Like if
Yeah.
you look at the way new canon works versus Legends, there are a lot more books, games, whatever that are focusing on characters that might not ever interact with like Han, Luke, and Leia. Like
Yeah.
back then, the odd thing out or having books that weren't about them was pretty rare. Even the books that theoretically weren't had a lot of them in it. Like the X-wing books had a lot of mentions of them. They were tied into the higher levels of the New Republic government, like
Hmm.
Rogue Squadron was. Whereas now, if you look at the kinds of stories we're getting, like Bad Batch, Jedi Survivor, Kenobi's slightly different in that, but like the story in Kenobi is a lot more self-contained, and we're getting connections between Jedi Survivor and the High Republic, or Bad Batch and the High Republic, but it's the background world building elements rather than character arcs. Like you don't need to have read the High Republic to understand Jedi Survivor.
Yep.
So it's hard to do that when you're getting the background and the character stories from them. It is kind of weird. Like it does read kind of weird going from the end of NJO to Dark Nest, having like Coruscant is just fine now, when
Yeah.
it's made such a big deal of, and like Nash Choka makes his kind of alliance with them to go and hunt down Yuzon Vong remnants. So I feel like the other enemies are different enough that it's not a full reversion to Jedi versus Sith. Like you get that in Fate of the Jedi, but they're working with the Sith in that. They're not fighting against the Sith per se in a lot of it, because it's
Yeah.
Abeloth that they're dealing with instead. And the Dark Nest is a bunch of bug orgies. So I think they were going for more of a variety in enemy types. They didn't want to just have Yuzon Vong book number 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the difference also too is that like right now the main like plot line, the story is being driven ahead by movies and TV shows, which is a lot like it's a lot more mainstream than books. So it's like yeah, it's a lot easier to require people to have past knowledge when it's in a book, or I mean sorry, in a TV show or a movie.
Yeah,
I think
that's true too.
Yeah.
All right. That I think is going to do it for this week. Again, we will not be having an episode next week. 99% chance. But week after that, we'll do our Jedi Survivor episode. And then maybe we do the following book the following week. We'll have to see exactly how things
We'll
shake
figure
out.
it out.
But I do want to try to get through more of the NJO before Ahsoka comes out. So no more 6-month gaps between NJO books. But yeah, so we're about to go and play some of the Star Wars event in Fortnite. That'll be live on youtube.com/ECKSTOO, as well as twitch.tv/Corey Loses. Anything else to say to the nice people, Justin?
Get your Fortnite battle passes done. Get them done.
Heard him.
Yeah. Even there's a free stormtrooper in there, or a clone trooper in there. So
Do it.
see ya.
Do it now.